Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavedanta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Raja Gokulananda Raja Gokulananda Raja Gokulananda Shri Radhe Jaya Raja Gokulananda Raja Gokulananda Raja Gokulananda Shri Radhe Jaya Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Gauranita 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 Jaya Gauranita Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome for an evening of Bhagavad Gita. So we'll be reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4. And chapter 4 is entitled Transcendental Knowledge. So I'll just give up the verse. Okay, I'll read the verse and then I'll read the translation and purport. We won't recite together. Nayam lokasti agyanasya kuto nyaya kurusatama. You can repeat after me. So I'll read the word for word translation. So just repeat after me. Na, never. I am this. Lokaha, planet. Asti, there is. Agyagnasya, for one who performs no sacrifice. Kutaha, where is. Anyaha, the other. Kurusatama, all best amongst the Kurus. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet. Or in this life, what then of the next? Purport. Whatever form of material existence one is in, one is invariably ignorant of his real situation. In other words, existence in the material world is due to the multiple reactions to our sinful lives. So I just forgot, I was meant to recite Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. I'll do it now actually. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Existence in the material world is due to the multiple reactions to our sinful lives. Ignorance is the cause of a sinful life, and sinful life is the cause of one's dragging on in material existence. The human form of life is the only loophole by which one may get out of this entanglement. The Vedas therefore gives us a chance for escaping by pointing out the paths of religion, economic comfort, regulated sense gratification, and at last the means to get out the miserable condition entirely. The path of religion, or the different kinds of sacrifice recommended above, automatically solves our economic problems. By the performance of yajna, we can have enough food, enough milk, etc. Even if there is a so-called increase of population, when the body is fully supplied, naturally the next stage is to satisfy the senses. The Vedas prescribes, therefore, sacred marriage for regulated sense gratification. Thereby one is gradually elevated to the platform of release from material bondage. And the highest perfection of liberated life is to associate with the Supreme Lord. Perfection is achieved by performance of yajna, sacrifice, as described above. Now, if a person is not inclined to perform yajna according to the Vedas, how can he expect a happy life even in this body? What to speak of another body on another planet? There are different grades of material comforts in different heavenly planets. In all cases, there are immense happiness for persons engaged in different kinds of yajna. But the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be promoted to the spiritual planet by practice of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all the problems of material existence. Om Jnana Tmanandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Minitam Yena Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadhatvi Swapadantikam Shri Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Udhabata Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sagana Raghutam Itam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vidhamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopikanta Radhakanta Namoshtare Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavaneshware Vishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhu Bevacha Patidana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Yo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Dinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirshesha Shunyavadi Pasajadi Shatarine. Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class. So I'll be talking a little bit about how we came to this point. I know that every time we have a class on the Gita, it's usually like we're usually in and out of the class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of summarize what's happened and explain how we got to this point. So in chapter one is just explaining how the scene is being set, how the phalanx has been set up in the material. They've been all been strategically placed like pieces on a chessboard, and it's describing different characters on the battlefield. Obviously, you have Krishna, Arjuna, different characters, Duryodhan, so many powerful characters on the battlefield. Bhim, Dronacharya, Bhishmadev, so many powerful characters, and it's describing how they blew their conch, how they're prepared to get ready for the war. But then Arjun, when it comes for the time just before the battle to begin, he's meditating. He's thinking to himself, is this really the right thing I really want to do? So then he asks Krishna if you can go to the middle of the battlefield, and he wants to see everything happening, and he's really thinking this through. Is this really the right decision I want to take? Because because the fight is against his family. You know, he spent a lot of time with them, and that's their relatives, the very immediate family members. And of course, of course, it's a matter of principle to fight, but still, is it really worth it? He's thinking, you know, if I kill them, what really good am I gonna get? You know, and yeah, there's gonna be blood on my hands. Also, I'll incur karma. Even if I do get the kingdom, will I be really satisfied and happy? So he's kind of lamenting if I really want to go ahead with this. So then later on in chapter 2, there's a change in dynamics. Krishna becomes a pivotal figure for Arjun. He's asking for some guidance to Krishna, and naturally Krishna, as the Lord, reciprocates. And this time, when Arjun asks for some guidance and help in this matter to Krishna, Krishna, he's changed his dynamics of that relationship before his friend, but because now he's asking for advice and guidance, then Krishna takes a position of a guru. A guru is one who leads by example, teaches by example, and shows and provides advice and guidance. So here it's described in one of the key verses in chapter 2, Karpanya dosh bahata swabhavaha. In that verse, he's describing how he's having a change of heart. He's feeling very sorrowful. There's a lot of heavy emotions, and he's just like, he's overwhelmed by the whole situation. He's not sure what to do. So the best thing here we can see is that he's turned to Krishna for advice and guidance. And Krishna, naturally, he reciprocates. And in that chapter, Arjun's asking him a few questions. And Krishna, he's basically summarizing the contents of the Gita. Krishna is saying, actually, you know, your duty is a Kshatriya. You're born as a Kshatriya. You know, this is what you're meant to do. This is your dharma. You should do this. Whereas Arjun thinking, no, I don't think this is what I should do. I think it's just better if I just retreat. I think I should just go back to um, the forest. I don't see this is gonna work out for me. So let me think of going to the forest. But Krishna is saying, if you do that, if you do go to the forest, people will call you a coward. You're just gonna bring disgrace upon yourself. It's just, and even if you do go to the forest, you'll still want to fight because it's in your nature. Was really in our nature, then we end up doing that anyway. It's like when we see in the world sometimes, no matter how much you try to change them, how much you try to push them, they're always going to be somewhat of that same character, that same nature. So it's like that for Arjun. You can't change him fully. So he had his nature. But then and then it's described, actually what Krishna is describing to Arjuna, how what you can do is in the later chapter in Karma Yoga. Karma means work or activities, and yoga means to connect with the divinity, which is Krishna, really. And he's describing, actually, you, instead of being bound up by the karmas, by incurring sin by doing these activities, if you're going to involved in war, which obviously naturally is killing, and that involves sin. But he's saying, actually, if you have that mentality and attitude to work for me, work for Krishna, then actually this is a service to me. And in this way, actually, you will get no karma. So this is described as akarma. So there's 3 types. There's akarma, vikarma, and just karma. So karma is where we're getting the fruits of our labor. Vikarma is getting the bad reactions to the karma, and akarma is getting no karma, basically. Usually means the reverse of something else. Afal, no fruits. So in this way, if Arjun works for Krishna, in this way his work will actually free him and not bind him. So in this verse, we can see actually that in whatever we do, whatever activities, there's always a reaction. It's I think it's is it Einstein or Isaac Newton? I can't remember which one, but he says for every action there's always an opposite and equal reaction. So in this way, there's always reactions to be occurred for whatever actions we try to do. So we have this cycle of repeated birth and death, and we're going around this cycle. And we've had this many lifetimes, we've had this time immemorial. And the problem is that originally we were in the spiritual world, but we became envious of Krishna. We saw Krishna, how happy he was, and how he was the enjoyer, and we thought this idea came to us that we wanted to be enjoyers. We wanted to be separate from Krishna. We wanted to be the center of attention. So in this way, Krishna, being the merciful Lord, reciprocated naturally and fulfilled that request. That is why we're here in the material world. But that's a problem, because Jivara is Sarupa Hoy, Krishna Nitya Das. We are eternally part and parcel of the Lord, and constitutionally we are meant to serve. In society, in any walks of life, you can see somebody is always serving somebody. In the work aspect, you can see the worker is serving the boss. Even at home, even if you're not working, you have to serve somehow to make meets end. Otherwise, how can you survive? So we have to serve in this way. But if it's either we serve dog or we serve God. And that dog is our senses. This is the problem, that we have our indriyanis, our senses. And our senses have been pulling here and there uncontrollably. because when our consciousness came in contact with this material energy, then we come in contact with the three modes of material energy, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. And then from there we become delusional if we're in the mode of ignorance. So therefore we need transcendental knowledge. That is this chapter is about. So some of the things that Prabhupada's mentioning in this verse is that due to the multiple reactions of our sinful life, that's continued throughout throughout our life, throughout this life. And so so the root cause of our sinful life is ignorance. Ignorance is avidya. And what's going to happen is if we don't change this, if we just continue the way it is, then it all adds up and we still have to repay. You've done the time, you got to pay for the crime now. This is the problem. But somehow, by good fortune, out of the 8.4, there's described as 8.4 million species of life that we'd have to go through the evolutionary process. But somehow in this lifetime, we have the rare opportunity to get the human form of life. And this human form life is actually very beneficial because it has the intelligence to understand higher things. We can cultivate spiritual understanding. In the lower forms of life, the animals, they don't have the intelligence. They can't understand these spiritual things. Therefore, they're still in that loophole of material entanglement, of repeated birth, death, old age, and disease, and it keeps going around. We desire, we get the fruits of that labor, and then we go around. So it's increasing the bank balance of our karmic reactions. And so what we want to do is actually, instead of reducing it, which most people try to do with philanthropic work, do some pious activities, because even then that has a reactive work that still binds us. So what we really want to do is have no karma, and that we do through Krishna consciousness. And that's why the whole thing was made for the Vedas. Vyasadeva, he composed, originally the Vedas was one. Krishna gave the Vedas to Brahma, and then when it came for Vyasadev's time, this is, I think, near the time just after Kurukshetra. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam how he's written so much scriptures, Mahabharata and things, and he's writing that for the purpose of human society. Because he's a sage, because he's a saintly person. One of the attributes of a sage or a saintly person is that they are Trikaligyan. They can see the past, present, future. So upon that, Vyasadeva saw how the effects of Kali Yuga was coming, how Kali Yuga was going to degrade, and now we have the symptoms of Kali Yuga, hypocrisy, quarrel, these sorts of things. Then he thought this would be a great way to elevate us and uplift our consciousness. I mentioned a little bit about Kali Yuga. There's actually 4 yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So it's like the seasons, and we're going through the cycles, these seasons. So at the present age, we're in Kali Yuga, and Kali Yuga happened to start when Krishna left this planet. And Kali Yuga is really the age of darkness. But although we're in this age of darkness, there is one good quality, and that one good quality is the chanting of the holy name. It's described in the Bhagavatam how after the disappearance of the Lord came about the fulgent light of the Brahma of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is none other than Krishna himself, and was written by Vyasadeva, who is the literary incarnation of the Lord. So even the Bhagavatam is not different from the Lord, and even when we look at the Bhagavatam as a whole, different parts of it represents different limbs of Krishna. So we're very fortunate to have the Bhagavatam in our life. We're very fortunate to have scriptures. So we should take advantage of this. But anyway, continue from where I was speaking from about the Vedas. So the Vedas are describing different paths where one can take. And the whole point of Vedas is ultimately Vedischa Sarva Ham Eva Vedyo Vedanta Krit Veda Ved Eva Chaham. The purpose of the Vedas is really to know Krishna as the ultimate. It's the be all end all, because really that's what really is going to get you out of this cycle. But Krishna is very merciful, and he knows that sometimes people are going to have struggles. That's just the nature of it, especially with Kali Yuga upon us, where it has its effect and the material energy. Yet Krishna is describing different processes, karma yoga, jnana yoga, but really it's really bhakti that's really wanting to make a difference in our life. It's the path of devotion. It's the most effective, most accessible. Anybody can take part of it, It's even described in one place how even there's this South Indian Brahmana, even though he was illiterate, he could not write. But because he was asked by his order of his guru, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is also Krishna himself, descended, but as a mood in a garb of a devotee, when he saw this, he was very much pleased. Even though the Brahmana community was laughing at him, it's like, you can't even read. What's the point of Bhagavad Gita? You're holding it upside down. But that's not the point. The point is that if we're asked by the Guru, and if we have that sincere and humble attitude of taking advantage of it, then the Lord is very merciful, very pleased. See, even after reading so much, the Vedas, the scriptures, but still, one cannot come to the right conclusion, without the devotee, without the Guru. We can be easily misled. We can be easily go off course. So it's very important in our life, whatever we do in our sadhana, which is our practice, that we have, we have the positive reinforcements. We have tools to help us, because on our own, how much can we do? So in this way, we always have the help of the devotees. But back to that cycle of repeated birth and death, going through the cycle of Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanumana ki, Shri Shri Gaunitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So ultimately, the whole verse that this is talking about ultimately is sacrifice, yagna, and that yagna is bringing about reward, the results of whatever you sacrifice. So it's described here that by performance yagna we can have enough food and milk, even if there is an increase in population, Prabhupada saying. But the problem is we're not willing to sacrifice, we're not ready to sacrifice. And even if it is, because it's not done with the proper knowledge, that sacrifice becomes meaningless. That's why transcendental knowledge is very important. It can liberate us. That's why they say knowledge is power. If we have that right understanding, then it can take us a long way. If we can cross the ocean of nescience and into the light with the transcendental knowledge. Otherwise, it's very impossible. Where would we know? How did you know to come here? How do you know where to go in life? It's only through knowledge. But this knowledge is not some ordinary knowledge. This knowledge is a very transcendental knowledge, meaning it transcends this material energy, which is very difficult to overcome. It's described as Devi Shagunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya. So hard, so difficult to come. It's like being bound up so tight. But Krishna says, if you surrender to me, it will be easy. You won't even affect. You will be unaffected by it. So by the process of we can come out of this material bondage. It was interesting today. I was hearing in the morning by Prabhupada how actually it's interesting that people don't even know that they are uh, being in bondage. They don't even know what bondage is. Bondage is that which binds us into the material world. So it's described that there are two paths. There is the path of sense enjoyment, pravritti, and the path of liberation, which is nirviti. So what we really want to do is we want to come out this cycle. And then when we come out this cycle, what we really want to do is that we want to go to Goloka Vrindavan. There is described as Satchit Ananda Vigraha, is that is full of eternity, full of bliss, and full of knowledge. Whereas over here is Asat, Achit, and Anand. It's not really full of happiness. It's described here that this material world is actually a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So what we're really experiencing is not to the true extent. And actually it's only part of it. So when we come to the spiritual world, there it's always ever increasing, it's always ever blissful. Because Bhagavan Krishna, he has full of 6 opulence, power, fame, strength, etc. So therefore we can enjoy with Krishna. How much can we enjoy? As described by Prabhupada in this morning class, that even if you try to enjoy so much, still we suffer the repercussions. Because it states in the Gita that for one who enjoys, one must surely suffer. That is the laws of nature. That's how it's operating. It does not matter if you do not know. It's like fire, You cannot say, I don't know how, I don't know the properties of fire. Whether you know or you don't know, you'll burn. That's the quality of fire. So in this way, to conclude, that the main thing that we want to do is bhakti, to get out this cycle, this loophole. It's a loophole. We're doing this life after life. And therefore Prabhupada says, just give this one life to Krishna. Because Krishna holds the key to everything. He can end your suffering. There, where Krishna is, there is no suffering. This is just my humble thoughts and words and realizations on this verse. If anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to ask now. Hare Krishna. Any comments, questions, criticism? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, it's described, I think it's in the Nectar Devotion or Nectar Instruction. Actually, I think it's an Nectar Devotion, how it's described as, how is it called? It's where you're renouncing and you're enjoying at the same time. I can't remember the term. But the problem is that we're constantly flickering between enjoyment and suffering. Enjoy for some time, but then we suffer. So we have to pay a lot to enjoy, actually. So let us try to take it to the spiritual enjoyment, which is by serving Krishna. By serving Krishna, then we'll automatically get nourishment and satisfaction from it. Because Krishna is the root of that tree, root of our spiritual happiness, actually. Yeah. Anybody else? Any comments, questions? Yeah. Yeah. What is that verse? think there's one verse where it's described because he's trying to enjoy material energy, but he can't really, not to the full satisfaction, because it's not meant to be. The material energy cannot provide what we're really seeking for. And it's described later on also that this material energy is just a spark of our spiritual energy. Um, how is it called? I think it's Prakriti Jan Gunan that we associate with this material energy, thinking it was going to be the be all and end all, but it doesn't work out to be. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Yeah, the fish out of water. That's a nice analogy. Yeah, because once the fish is out of the water, it can't breathe, it can't do anything. It's not meant to live out of the water. So similarly, we are also out of the water. This is not really our home. We believe it is our home. But constant shushi, like the fish is meant to be in the water, that's where it belongs. Similarly, we belong with Krishna. That's our home. That's where we're meant to be, and it's where we serve. And from there, we derive great satisfaction and bliss. Yeah. It's like, even I give you an example. I always like the story of Mr. Bean. You know, he you must have seen this. Maybe you haven't. But he goes to this hotel, and he he puts everything up. He puts his paintings and everything, and then he starts refurbishing it. He starts making a new bathroom, starts making new things in the things, and then he puts once he's done everything, he puts in the mat on the door sign, "Home Sweet Home." But there's one problem. He's only checked in for 2 days, and he has to check out for 2 days. So it's similarly like that. We're only here for a short time. We're only here for short time, but we've mistaken it to be home. So we put it as a be all and end all. But at the end of the life, when death comes, that's it. You come with nothing, you leave with nothing. So Krishna is the one that's always true with us. He is a Paramatma. He's been with us from life after life. That's just amazing, Krishna. It's amazing how Krishna is with us at every moment. But we just need that transcendental knowledge to realize that. Screw, yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's it, yeah. Yeah, it has value. Otherwise, the screw has no value without it. Yeah. 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 Yeah, of course. With Krishna, Krishna is we're minute, but for Krishna, he's huge. So when you add, it's like we're zero, but if you put the one before the zero, it becomes 10. So it can become so many. Krishna can really add value to our life. It's why the devotees are experiencing great joy and bliss, because Krishna is giving that them. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, I need. Mm. Yeah, ever sweet, ever sweet. Yeah, yeah, and that's also another problem because with time, with the effects of Kali Yuga, things degrade, things don't become involved. But it's interesting with Krishna. When you're with Krishna, things evolve. Things are always ever increasing. I describe this as kind of like science. When you experiment, if you did like an experiment on Krishna, usually there's some parameters, there's some limits to it. You know, there's some vectors and different things. But with Krishna, it's unlimited. There's no stopping it. So it's just incredible how Krishna is ever increasing. Is always huge. It can be very complicated. Yeah, simple at the same time. Achinta Beda Veda Tattva, how that simultaneously one in difference, but same time it's not. It's very amazing, how, because if you think about it, our brain is not so big. How much can we comprehend out of those so many books? There's so much, we're limited to how much we can comprehend. But Krishna, being so merciful, he can put um, what seems to be incomprehensible in our tiny, minute brain. It's even like when we hear the story of the cobbler, when uh, asked for Narada, when he sends Narada Muni, and he cobbler asked Narada Muni, what is the Lord doing in Vaikuntha? And Narada Muni says he's putting an elephant through an iron needle, and he's just like, wow. He was in amazement, and Narada Muni was like, don't you think that's a bit funny? It's like, you really think he's doing that? It's like, yeah, of course. It's like, if the Lord can put a seed, a big, massive, huge tree, in just one little seed, then why can't he do that with the elephant through the iron needle? What's not possible? So it's incredible how the devotees, he's always open to, he has no expectation of the Lord, has no reservation. He's very open to the plan of and will of the Lord. And that's one of the big key difference we see between a devotee and a non-devotee, is that the devotee is very open-minded. He's whereas generally when we see it, we non-devotees, we generally associate them with Kripa-minded. They're very deceptive, they're very closed, not very open-minded. So that's a very beautiful thing about a devotee. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening. I'll end it here. And thank you for your time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. How did it roll?
There's a hole inside there.
Really? Someone was playing very, very strongly.
Get away, get away, get away. Oh my god, this tastes so bad.
No, coriander leaves taste very bad. Banana bread tastes good. Coriander leaves taste bad.
Hello. I get some more bread. I'm gonna go and get some more bread.
You said it's not nice.
I don't like it.
Did you guys wanted to sing?
Yeah, you came to sing?
They asked me to sing, but you sing. Now you want to sing. You had a desire to sing.
Huh?
You had desire to sing, so you should.
Thank you. And she had desire. It's her first time gonna be in Narasimha prayers.
So you should sing that. That's a
No,
must stop.
Narasimha prayers. Thank you, Prabhu. So much. Can I hang?
You're gonna be sitting down.
Sitting down.
You played so well last night. Yeah, not that you don't play well tonight. Why don't you have the little Come on, then you go You're gonna get back in the What? You do this. Can I get the yellow one, please?
Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Ki Bajayo Jayo Gaura Chanade Harati Kosho Show